Right, let's go.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 30 of the Just Discourse Podcast with your host, Matt Harpe, and Smithy McGee over here, also known colloquially as Max, M-Dog, M-Money, and the other one.
Yes.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
You can't say on here.
Yeah, I know. Well, you see, the words that we use to describe one another is different to what we're allowed to in public conversation.
Yes.
To
impart on the rest of the world.
It could be indeed. Now, you've noticed from Max and I here in our particular get-ups today, it's a little bit different from what you've seen last time, mainly because I'm wearing 4 layers, thermals, gloves, and a hat, and Max can't feel his fingers right now.
Exactly.
And that's because we are actually doing this in the Caribbean.
Yep.
So we're actually on a beach. We've just rented a little hut, put some the usual background up because we carry these curtains around with us wherever we go.
Yeah, to make it look like we are in the original studio.
Exactly. So if you are disturbed by any sort of like palm fronds or anything that come through, or coconuts, just bear with us, all right?
Now, the honest answer is it's about -3 outside, and we have no heating in the studio. So it's about -3 in here as well.
So this is what was great about this, is that I was thinking on the way over here, actually, I'll give you them because I've got pockets.
That's fine. I'll wake up.
I was thinking, that's all good.
Thank you, my friend.
I was thinking on the way over here that I was like, because it's so cold today, I was like, it's going to be absolutely fucking freezing in the studio. But then I was reminded of the Chris Williamson phrase, is that, oh, this is the hard part. This is what hard feels like. This is what it's supposed to be. This exact part of the journey is supposed to be fucking hard.
This is the fun part.
Because we are at that point where we don't have money for heating.
Yes.
It's fucking great. I love it.
And as we've mentioned before, it's boring, like for the billionaires, when they've got everything. I mean, it's too easy.
Yeah, gives us something to strive for. So, cheers to that. Cheers to struggling. Cheers for striving,
Cheers,
baby.
But-
Episode 30, mate. Fucking hell.
So I know we
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
manned it. But I think we decided in the last one that we're gonna push a principle, or discuss one main principle and one main quote that helps us through our general day-to-day living to be better people for the world out there.
Yeah, I like it.
So I think Matt came up with a very good one. So the principle for today we would like to discuss is, in a negotiation or a quest, whomever talks first loses.
So what that would come down to is, say I'm coming to Max and I'm like, Max, I am a little bit short on money there. I need 100 quid off you. And the reason I need that amount, because it is only to fill up my car, but I need that 100 because it's quite a long journey I've got to go to. I'm probably going to fill the car up a couple of times. I know you're quite tight for money it is at the minute, but it's something that I really need for the time being. Now, there'll be a bit of a silence after this, because Max is like, you don't need 100 quid to do that. So he's going to be thinking, okay, how do I come back from this? So, and then I'm going to be thinking, okay, what's he going to say? Now, if Max speaks at this point, he's going to be like,
I don't really have the money.
or he's going to be like, I can't give you 100, but I can give you this.
Yeah.
But if I speak after the silence, after I've already said something, I'm going to put myself in a weaker position, because by speaking again, I'm going to try and justify it with more, which makes me look a little bit desperate, which then puts me in that weak position, and you're going to be there. Exactly. It automatically switches the perspective.
Which means I know I can lower the offer.
Precisely.
Do you need £100?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got it, sure.
I'd probably put it into heating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can put it on my toes, yeah.
But no, it is a powerful concept, and it's why we read endlessly and discuss these things at length, because all of life is about negotiations. One thing I've learned from being in sales is, no matter what you're doing, if you're speaking to the guy, working with employees, speaking to your girlfriend, dealing with people at the gym, anything, any conversation really is a negotiation. And if you have that skill in your arsenal, you're going to come up on top most of the time. And one thing I've learned in life is you can quite quickly determine if anyone's a good or a bad negotiator. And I don't know about you, but when I come up against a good negotiator, most of the time I get off the phone or get out of the situation or whatever, and I think, that person was a complete dick. However, they're a fucking good negotiator. I've learnt this from them, or I've learnt that, or blah blah blah. And I had exactly that with a customer not too long ago, and yeah, I came out of it and I just thought, she's an absolute dickhead. However, she is fucking fantastic negotiating. I would love her to work for me.
Yeah, so they get shit done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you have that, because it all comes down to psychology. There is no reason outside of how our brains work why this should apply, because it's only in human discourse, that this format works. That surely it should just be, we've been objective, surely that if you just kept talking and ask after you've asked for something, you're just giving more information, so more reasons why you should give whatever they're asking for. But it's interesting that once you've asked for it, and then after everything that needs to be said has been said, if you then keep talking to justify the case, it puts us in a weaker position. It's very interesting that it comes out that way, but that just is what it is. It's just a universal law, effectively. That is the arrangement if you're asking for something from that point.
But I guess that's verbally, isn't it? Whereas in the animal kingdom, they negotiate physically.
Yeah, so it'd be, if you're
up,
peacocking, pounding the ground, growling, whatever. Yeah, so that'd be a different way to work it out. But it's a case, and I learned it from, even though I didn't recognise that's what it was at the time, I've recognised that from where you and I used to work, when people would say, look, hello, Mr. Landlord, the tenants come through, they are this, all the good things you want, and they've offered $1,250 when it should be $1,500. And then say nothing from there. Because now the landlord's got to go, $1,250, what the fuck? I could have done better than that, or whatever. Or they'll go, they are all these good qualities. They're the right kind of tenants I want. They're going to be there for a very long time. If I take the hit right now, maybe they could actually pay more in like 4 years' time or something like that. Whereas if you say all those things, they ask $1,250. Now they've asked for $1,250, but they're going to be this, and that, and over there. And I know we've got this over here. This sort of property in the market is what it is at the minute. And this guy's just like, this guy's just talking shit now.
Exactly. Yeah. You then turn around and go, right, we'll fucking go back and get more money.
Yeah. Which again, sorry, carry on. I beg your pardon, because that'd be a different principle from there.
Yeah. No, I would say whereas if you were just, I've had it before when it's silent, and it feels like for a whole minute it's just dead silence. Usually it's only like, the long ones like 10, 15 seconds. It may even be longer, I've probably had longer pauses. But especially with the good negotiator as well, they obviously know it on the flip side. So they're doing the same thing. But as you say, the person who speaks first puts themselves in a weaker position. So if you're confident as a negotiator, look, this is the best I'm going to get. They're offering $1,250. They're a really good tenant. Basically, take it or leave it. What would you like to do? Silence. You're basically putting it down on whoever you're negotiating with. Look, this is the best we're going to do. That's it. Clear cut. Bang. Done. And then they are the one that needs to talk next if they choose to accept the offer or not, even if they choose to reject it. But exactly as you said, if I then start babbling on after I've said the clear-cut reason, it shows that I'm not confident in what I presented you. Therefore, the person on the other side probably thinks, well, he must be able to do better than that, otherwise he wouldn't be babbling.
Very true. So that's the principle. Something to build onto that. Well, I could describe it. Let's call it this technique the retreat. So this is the negotiating perspective. Let's go back to the example we had before of £100. So number one, ask for what I want. So I give all the reasoning for it, ask what I want, and then stop. The same thing again. This time I'll go, Max, I've got this limited edition item I need to get. It's going to be really good because it's going to be worth X amount. It's going to be worth 20% more in 2 months' time. And I need a little bit of help with that in a minute, and we can build from there. And I'm going to need £500.
Now, in my mind, there's two ways you can think about it. I know Matt's coming to me because he's got an idea that he believes he can make money at. And he's asking me because he knows I may have the money and would want to invest. So the options are, I miss this opportunity, Matt comes back to me, or I see someone else take the opportunity and they've benefited from something that I haven't. So most of the time there'll be a part of me that's thinking, fuck, right, I need to go for this. I need to jump at this. I've got to go. But this is the retreat method. So I'm saying, I'm not sure about it, Matt. It seems like quite a lot of money. Can I take the risk in this scenario? Is it worth me doing it? I'm not sure.
Okay. I understand. It's a lot of money to give up for something straight away they haven't done before. Tell you what, instead of 500, how about you give me 300 so that you're not going to be having as much of a return, but you mitigate that by you've got a significantly less risk for the amount there. How does that sound?
So there's two things there. He's obviously retreating, but he's still confident in his ability when he is retreating. To me, that instills more confidence on the flip side, because he said, look, well, that's fine. I don't need that. If you don't want to give it to me, it's absolutely fine. You put whatever up you feel is comfortable for you. In the background, I'm thinking, well, maybe he's got other investors that he's obviously confident that he can get into. Therefore, it makes me feel a bit more comfortable with thinking, okay, I can put less in if I want to. He's giving me the option. He's not there with desperation going, I need your money, has to be done. He's going, that's fine, yeah, if you want to put less in, absolutely fine. I can still use that and I can get the money from elsewhere because I've got plenty of other people that are interested. But there's also the other part of the retreat, whereas you could have said, absolutely fine, no worries, I've got plenty of other investors. And you take the whole option off of the table, and then again, you don't say anything. Because then I'm thinking, well, he's obviously got so much confidence in himself and what he's going to achieve, and he's got other people lined up ready to go. So if I miss this opportunity, it might be the last time he comes to me. I've got to jump at it.
Which works from there. So in essence, so that's if I'm asking for money for there. If we're doing it, well, I'm so glad that we know each other, because I didn't even have to tell you how this was going. You just carried on with it, which is fucking awesome. So cheers for that, sir. Well done. Synergy. The other thing was, if you do it the other way around, like when you're the middleman in a negotiation, going to the landlord, say, Mr. Landlord, your property is 1,500 quid. The tenants tick all your boxes. They've offered 1,200.
$1,200, is that it?
That's what they're coming to us with.
Right. Okay. And have they got any other options?
For those guys at the minute, they're looking around. The market's pretty good for them, what they look at in the minute. Us, for the time being, it's quite hard to find decent little tenants. These guys are happy to do a 36-month sign on the line right now. So the option's there for you. They're a good tenant. They tick all your boxes.
And have we got anyone else lined up?
Unfortunately not.
Then it leaves me with what appears to be the only option to get my property rented. And if I didn't, if I don't take this now, it could be 1, 2, 5, 10 weeks before I get it rented, and every month I'm not having it rented, or I haven't got a tenant and they're paying for it, I'm paying for it. So am I better off taking the hit for £200 a month? Because I might lose £200 a month or £100 a month, whatever the figure is, but say your mortgage is £1,500. If I don't get it let before I have to pay my mortgage, I'm guaranteeing to lose that in 1 month or 2 months. So quite often it's better to take the hit. Now, it's different for every scenario. If you're flush with cash and you've got no mortgage, then it's worth waiting and holding out. But every individual position is different, isn't it? And the whole point, especially with the property game and how people tend to work it with mortgages and debt, is they own the debt, but they get someone else to pay for that debt. And if you're paying for the debt, the game doesn't work.
So with these guys here, so where I was going with this one is that property's 15, they've offered 12. If we're going this from the monetary side of it, what would you say, just looking at money?
Look at the money?
Yeah.
Honestly, no way I'm taking 1,200.
Okay. What would be the number you would take?
I need 1,450.
Okay, let me see what I can do. So you'd hang up on the phone, you'd sit there, knowing full well they've already offered 1,450. You'd sit there. Actually, no, sorry. They've offered 1,400. Landlord doesn't know that. The negotiator does. Sit there for like 5 minutes. Maybe go have a cigarette, come back. Call Mr. Landlord back. Hey, Mr. Landlord. Okay, so Thank you for waiting. I've spoken to them. The absolute highest they can go to is 1350. They've come back to us. They said they've seen another property which is similar to yours, and that's the sort of price they're looking at here. Now they like yours more, but ultimately, like with all of us, it comes down to money. What would you say?
So then I've got two options here. I've got 13.15 on the table. Do I accept that? Take that? Because say my mortgage is 1,200 or whatever, that covers that. It covers the money I need. Or do I think, well, okay, they've come up a bit more. We're not far off where we are. So I had three options there. We're not far off where we are. I can see if we can meet in the middle or come up, renegotiate, change my offer and say, look, well, instead of 14.50, I can accept 1,400. And push it back, and hopefully they come back and we get something in the middle, or I can just flat out refuse it. Now, the first one, we're negotiators, aren't we? So we never accept what we don't think we want. You always got to keep pushing to the last possible option without losing them. The second option is the one I would always go for. Renegotiate, and unless you physically can't, and you have to go for the 14.50. And you say, look, 14.50 is the absolute minimum I can take. If they can't go to that, then it's no good to me. But the second option would be, okay, they can meet me in the middle, 1,400. Are they happy to go?
Okay. Let me speak to them. Let's find out. They do the same whole thing again. Hang up. Let's do 10 minutes. So you'd maybe talk to someone else. You'd maybe go something to eat, have a coffee, come back, say, Mr. Landlord, I've spoken to them. I've explained how amenable you've been, how understanding you are. And they, in light of this, they are happy to meet you at 1,400. Now, some people might say that, well, why didn't you just say it to begin with? It's like, if I go to a landlord, and they got a property that's on 1,500, and say, hi, I've got this really great family, they'll take it, they'll do 1,400 for it. The landlord's mind will go, oh, they're just trying their luck. And you'll be like, nah, full price.
And immediately, I'm thinking the disparity between 14 and 15
is nothing.
I'm going, no, we're taking 1,500.
Precisely. Whereas if you go with a
or in the middle.
Exactly.
And in the middle is
50.
14.50, so that's more.
So if you start with a number that makes you want to hold the phone away from your head because they're going to start screaming at you, you've got rope to play with from there.
Yeah, and then when you come back with a higher offer, they think, fuck me, this guy's good.
This guy's good, exactly, yeah. Whereas full well that, okay, this entire interaction maybe took half an hour when it could have taken 5 minutes, but that 5-minute one would have been a risk that it wouldn't work. Whereas the half an hour one, it's going to work.
And you've also got to be careful in the first offer you're putting forward that you don't advise them to take it.
Yeah.
Because if you were to advise them to take a lower offer, say the 12.50 when we're looking at 1,500, he thinks you're an absolute twat and you're a useless fucking negotiator, because why would you advise me to take something that I know is worth, based on your recommendations,
precisely
1,500?
Precisely.
So most of the time, at that point, we say, look, 12.50. Before they even shout at you, you say, look, they've come in at 12.50. Yeah, I think it's too low. Are you happy for me to go back and ask them for more? And obviously, they're always going to say yes, of course, blah, blah, blah.
So part of the reason we have this back and forth, we are legally bound to provide all serious offers to landlords.
Yeah. Now,
we can decide what's a serious offer and what's not a serious offer. If someone says $1,000, it's 1,500, I'm not even going to listen to you.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But if someone's like, yep, I absolutely want this, here's all my paperwork, here's all my details, here's a move date, this is what I want for it, you'd be like, okay, that's a serious offer. It's a bit silly, but okay, they're serious about it because they're giving us all this information. So, yeah, I mean, that's a build upon the principle we've spoken about, but both of those points are very, very important. Because you can apply them to everything, like we've done in these two different scenarios. Whereas I'm the one asking for money. I've said exactly what it is, employ the silence, and then I have the retreat method afterwards. And then equally, when you're at the middleman, when you're negotiating on behalf of someone, you've got that same thing when you're retreating for both of them. It works really well.
I agree.
Really well for both of them.
And that's why you got to be comfortable with the pauses. And confident in your conviction.
I've heard it described as you've got to be comfortable for the flinch, So if you ask for something, or you state something that is uncomfortable for the person in front of you to hear, that they'll either go, or they'll go, what the hell? And that's called the flinch.
Yeah.
If you can withstand the flinch, don't react to it, then you can play with them. If you react to the flinch, you're done.
Yeah, of course.
It's the same thing as speaking into the silence. Is if you react to it, you're done. That's it.
100%.
Whereas if you just ride it out, then it's you have the cars there.
But then, so I think the quote, which is slightly different to the principle we're pushing today, but have you got this one down? Or do you want me to go through
Yes, I have it. So the quote for today is: "Women bond face to face, men bond shoulder to shoulder." What does that mean to you, Max?
Well, so to me, I think we can apply it to various different scenarios. The main one, obviously, for males is shoulder to shoulder in war, in sports, in business, whatever type of situation you find yourself in. Men tend to organise themselves into hierarchical structures based on their performance and ability. And they tend to bond better when they are undertaking an activity together. It's not the same for all men, same as in general, but we tend to bond better when we've got a goal to work towards together. Now, we've all worked with people before that no matter what team they're in, they're not interested, they're only interested in themselves, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot because they make it much harder for themselves because they're not working with the people around them, but they also make it much harder for the team around them as well, and they leave themselves in a precarious position because through their either unintelligence or arrogance or a mixture of both, they leave themselves vulnerable for the men around them to not protect them, and also to be the first ones out the door when situations arise.
Yeah, and it's the difference between the main hormones we have as well. Like maybe different to that, I think the chromosomal aspect of it, because of the XX chromosomes in women, they are more sociable and they're facing one another and talking things through, and they're speaking about their feelings and experiences throughout the day, and they'll have, if it's to another woman, that woman will be sympathetic, empathetic, and they'll be like, really? Whoa, oh my goodness, wow, that must have been so stressful or scary or whatever. Once that, and this is just me repeating the words of a family psychologist called Adam Lane Smith, he's saying that once that information dump and emotional dump has happened, oxytocin is released in the female brain, which is the bonding chemical most commonly most commonly activated by during sex. That's where you bond with the partner, and that's what happens with the women when they're bonding that way together. So if you and I were female and I was telling you for 30 minutes about my day, and then that whole time you were supportive, you were encouraging, you were patient, you were listening to me, once I got everything out of me that I needed to, I'd have been like, wow, Maxine is a wonderful friend. Isn't she great? Isn't she so beautiful? Look at those tits. And she would they would have bonded with them. Exactly. They would have bonded with them because you've had that validation, you've had someone listen to you, you've had all this come out, because that's how they're structured. And then it would swap, and it'd be then your turn to download onto me. Whereas with us, a lot of how we bond is non-verbal.
Yeah, we're not interested in the moaning.
No, or we will be after the non-verbal, whether it's we could be working on, I don't know, fixing a rear axle together, or we could be yelling at each other to do more burpees, or I don't know, putting this studio together. Like you and I got more out of putting this all together than we would have if we sat for the same amount of time drinking coffee together.
Then moaning.
Yeah. Because it probably would have been a bit stilted, it probably would have been uncomfortable. Not to say that we couldn't have a conversation, but it would have taken way longer. It would have taken so much more time to get the same bonds and benefits that we have now.
Yeah, of course.
Proof is in the pudding of how the little scenarios we just ran through. We didn't even have to set it up. We had no setup beforehand about what we were going to be talking about, and we knew where we were both going.
Just straight off the dome.
Yeah, we just knew we were going with that because we know each other just from doing stuff together.
Mm-hmm. From experience.
Which is fascinating. And yeah, your examples of war are, yeah, I mean, for the two of us who've never experienced war, they're incalculable.
Yeah, of course.
Understanding what that's like.
But it tends to be the harder the situation or scenario you are in, the more you tend to bond.
Yep.
Yeah, for example, if you all work for a highly intense and sales-driven environment, that's the only one I can sort of talk about, or, you know, a very successful sports team or business, whatever it is, you tend to relate more to your peer, and therefore you bond better as a, you know, friendship and stuff like that.
Yeah, because this is where I think, yeah, you and I are as tight as we are now. But imagine if we were both on sales, like next to each other.
Yeah.
Like imagine if we were both crammed into that office in Reading, in the midst of, you know, one of those Val days, just screaming down the phone with everyone else. But it was like you and me. Yeah, give them a fuck what everyone else was doing. It'll be you and I, you know, fist bumping between each successful call or something like that. Then that would be etched into my head forever now. And now he's kicking me under the table. You see that?
Bastard.
I know.
The one thing I think is interesting with males is we can compete with each other whilst working together at the same time.
It strengthens the bond.
Yeah,
Wow.
And it's not, you know, it's not always the case, but in general, I find that on the flip side for the females, they actually don't like competing against each other.
Very true.
It's all about working together, and whereas men compete to improve and be better, you know, we're happy to fall out for a while in order for the betterment of ourselves and the group. Whereas I find, in general, you know, the females, as soon as they get to a point where it gets tough or they feel like they're falling out, the emotions come in and they think, oh well, let's stop playing then. We don't want to continue this game.
It is interesting. It's a chicken and egg kind of thing. Do you think that
which I think is a detriment for the females?
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Do you think they act that way because there's more at stake if it doesn't work, or do they not compete because they feel that the relationship's going to fall apart, or will the relationship fall apart because they're going to compete?
So I think, yeah, they care more about the relationship falling apart than the improvement aspect. Therefore, they think, oh, okay, well, let's not do that because we don't want to fall out. Whereas men, in general, again, especially if we're going to better ourselves in the group, I couldn't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Is that because with men we are very hierarchical?
Yeah.
And we're like, cool.
And if you're not good enough, I don't want you around me anyway.
But also good at certain things. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Max is brilliant at cold calling. He's great from there. Whereas Matt is really good at retention with current clients.
So we would specifically allocate the cold calling to me and the client retention to you.
I'd be account manager, for example.
Which is not fair.
No.
If we go back to our fair comment, because we're not doing the exact equal work.
But
that's where fair means absolutely fucking nothing.
But that is interesting with that, because I think that's how men work out what everyone's role is supposed to be, by working out, okay, we're all going to compete in all of these different areas to work out who's the best, and then give that person the best thing to do. So then we have the best person for each individual job. Whereas with women don't like to compete, because if someone is proven to be higher, what is it? Is it that female is then perceived as viewing herself as higher than the rest of them, or is it that the rest of the group naturally puts her higher than them, and they're trying to pull her back down again because she's outperforming the rest of them?
I think so.
So
the only thing I can compare that to is weak men. Right. Because I find a lot of weak men tend to act quite feminine in their responses to things. Instead of being stoic and getting on with it and being a better human, they moan and bitch and stay at the same level. So that's the only experience I can comment on, because I haven't worked in many environments in my working years with large groups of females.
And so we're using feminine in this case not to be so that feminine is a bad trait, but it's a bad trait. It's not a useful trait in a man.
Yes. It's the opposite of how the men should operate and how it would benefit them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was supposed to...
And it on the flip side, often it benefits the females to act in that feminine way.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was a male to act in a feminine way, it doesn't benefit him.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
Same as if a female to act in a masculine way, it doesn't necessarily benefit her.
I think I try to ask this similar sort of question to my missus, and I was like, why do you think women don't like to beat other women and stuff? And she said something along the lines of, because it would bring all women down, something like that, because they don't like to see that any woman's better than another. They want them to all be the same, which if you're pushing everyone to be the best thing they possibly can, I agree. But that's not what's happening. Is there just egalitarianism will manifest either as everyone's being pushed to be the best they possibly can, or everyone's being held down to be the same level of what the weakest person is.
Yeah, and it is a race to the bottom. And I think we see it a lot. And as we've said before, this massive push for feminine independence, which basically means female promiscuity to do whatever they want, is the men will reach that level, whatever the bar is set. The females are the gatekeepers to sexual activity, and the males are the gatekeepers to relationships. Now, if women push their requirement levels up as high as they can, then the males are going to work as hard as they have to meet that. But again, if they drop them down, it's just easier for the men. And then same the other way. When the females lower their standard for a sexual partner, the males think, oh yeah, well, I'll probably have a go, I'll do whatever I want, but not really going to go in a relationship with her because of the obvious low standards.
Yeah, precisely. Mate, great way to end at that point.
Good.
Well,
that's
good.
the end of part 1.
Oh yeah, and part 2 coming up in 2 days.
Join us again.
Thank you very much, guys.